We're about to go live, everybody, so if you can just come to. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to East Devon District Council's Cabinet meeting for this, the 27th of November 2024. I'll be your chair, Councillor Paul Arnott, and welcome to anyone watching the meeting via live streaming. We'll now start the meeting by Amanda doing a roll call of committee members here present.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors, when I call out your name, if you can let us know if you're here, and also if you have any declarations, please let me know. So starting with yourself, Chair, Councillor Arnott.
Present.
And no declarations?
None.
No. Councillor Hayward?
Present and an effects NRI. Sorry, my brain's gone to sleep. In respect of agenda items 14 and 20 and 18 in respect of my employment as clerk to Axminster Town Council, and an effects NRI on agenda item 15 in respect of family members living in Cranbrook. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hawkins?
Thank you, President. Effects NRI for item 8 and an ORI for item 15, both in respect to membership of Cranbrook Town Council.
Thank you. Councillor Hookway?
Present and none that I'm aware of, thank you.
Councillor Jackson?
I have words that I have to say, which I'm trying to find. Can you come back to me?
Okay. Councillor Young?
I'm present and no declarations.
Thank you. Councillor Ledger?
I'm present and none that I'm aware of at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Loudon?
Present, Amanda, and none that I'm aware of.
Thank you. Councillor Olive?
Present, thank you, and none that I'm aware of.
And Councillor Rickson?
Present and no declarations.
Thank you. How are you doing, Councillor Jackson? Okay, yeah, I'll take a deep breath. Are there any other councillors in the room who have a declaration, please? Councillor Bakley.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. Declare an effects NRI in respect of item number 15 as a member of Cranbrook Town Council. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Faithful?
I don't know if I have. It's agenda item 13. I was a candidate for general election.
What do you think?
Oh, sorry, I wasn't even listening. Sorry, Councillor Faithful, I wasn't actually listening at the moment, at that particular moment, but no, that doesn't give rise to any interest.
Are there any other declarations in the room, please? No. Councillor Jackson, if you just want to email that one across to me, that would be fine.
It's an effects NRI, 14, 18 and 20, but I can't remember exactly which section.
What were the agenda items, please?
14, 18 and 20, I think.
Is it your standard?
Yeah.
Yes,
normal,
I'll find it.
normal
somewhere.
wording. Thank
yes,
you.
If you find it this evening,
I'll ping it
fire
over.
it off. If not, I'll
Thank
look
you.
for it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Amanda. We now go to agenda item 1, the minutes of the previous meeting. If anyone has a comment on this set of minutes from the 30th of October this year, please do so by raising your hand. If no hands have been raised, I'll take it as an indication that you are agreeable to those minutes. Thank you very much. Those minutes are recommended to be agreed. Agenda item 2, apologies, and we have apologies from Councillor Aurora Bailey and Councillor Brian Bailey. Amanda, are you aware of any that have come in since then? No. Thank you very much. Anybody else have any apologies they would wish to offer for anybody else? No, thank you very much. Agenda item 3 is declaration of interest. These have already been done during a roll call. Thank you. So agenda item 4, public speaking. And our first public speaker is Martin Huscroft to talk about item 19, the PSPO Dog Control 2023. So in your own time, please, Martin, you'll have 3 minutes after you started. Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time. Our cricket club was formed in 1879 when Victoria was Queen and Disraeli was Prime Minister. The club's been playing on its current ground since at least 1908. What's the problem? What's the mitigation? The club has previously had some problems with dog fouling on the field of play. This problem grew exponentially during and after the COVID pandemic and during the various lockdowns during that time. A number of dog owners were clearly failing to pick up after their fouling, despite the provision of a dog waste bin right next to the gate, right next to all the notices at the entrance of the field. During the 2022 cricket season, the volunteer groundsmen and other club volunteers had to clear up 73 times. The public spaces protection order dogs on leads was introduced in May 2023. The impact was clear, immediate and obvious. There were 14 clear-ups in the 2023 cricket season, 9 clear-ups in the 2024 cricket season. It mitigated risk, although not totally solving the problem. Why is protection important to our club? In 2024, concerted effort has been made to expand the youth provision, and more than 50 under-16s have represented the club in the cricket season, and many more have trained on the ground at that time. Youth players also represent the adult teams, particularly the second 11 and the friendly 11. Our club develops young cricketers. This cricket season, over 100 players have represented Kilmington Cricket Club on the field of play. The trustees and the club have a duty of care and a legal responsibility to our players, both adult and youth, our opponents, the primary school and its pupils, and the other people who use the field. We take this responsibility very, very seriously, but can only deliver it with the protection that the authorities can provide us with. Dog fouling is antisocial behaviour. It's a clear health and safety issue with horrendous health impacts like, but not only, toxocariasis. The trustees and the volunteers at our club have done all they can to remove or mitigate the risk. The PSPO has proven to mitigate the risk by an 88% reduction in dog fouling incidents. Many people have thanked those of us working on the ground for introducing the PSPO, including parents of small children and dog owners who always used leads, who dislike the unwarranted attention that they receive from often big off-lead dogs. So in conclusion, the health and safety and well-being of the adults and children who use our playing field is our top priority. None of us appreciate having to clear up after selfish dog owners before every cricket match on the field. On health and safety grounds alone, we should not let dogs foul on any sporting field or play area. The introduction of the PSPO in May 2023
Can you wind up now, Mr. Huscroft, please? Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, then we have Mr. John Lavender on the same item. Please, in your own time, Mr. Lavender. You'll have 3 minutes, and if you'll see it that it started already. But yes,
thank
okay.
you.
Thank you.
I'm representing the Kilmington Playing Fields Committee, which is the management committee of the Arthur Hitchcock Charity and has responsibility for the playing field. Governance is in accordance with the Charity Commission requirements, and democracy is served with the election of 3 trustees at the annual meeting. We requested that a Dogs on Lead PSPO be introduced from May 2023, in part because of the amount of dog fouling that was taking place, and much of which observation had shown was the results of dogs off lead. We received written confirmation that the application had been approved by Cabinet, and so introduced the policy using temporary notices while awaiting the council signage. There was an immediate drastic reduction in the number of fouling incidents, as Martin has actually already mentioned. So I won't repeat those statistics. But the PSPO has also addressed the safeguarding issues regarding the primary school, who make frequent use of the field, regarding children who are nervous and in some cases absolutely scared of dogs. Some dog walkers who have always used leads have been grateful that their pets do not receive unwanted attention from dogs off lead. And the other aspect is that access to the children's playground area involves crossing the field. And parents of small children have said that they make more use of the playground now that they no longer have to worry about encountering dogs off lead. At the request of some dog walkers who were unhappy about the policy, a public meeting was held in April. Over 100 village residents attended and a variety of views were aired. Whilst no formal vote was held, it was clear that a large majority supported the policy. Whilst other playing fields in the area, Uplyme and Collerton being examples, have banned dogs completely, we have always recognised the value that members of the community place on being able to walk their dogs in the field. We do, however, need to reduce risk and take account of the health, safety and well-being of users of the field. And we consider that this is best achieved with a dogs on leads policy. We hope that you will support this position. Many thanks for listening to me.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Lavender. We now go to agenda item 5, which is matters of urgency. There is one late item to be dealt with at agenda item 24. He's coming later. He's coming later, yeah. Don't worry. So, yes, there'll be a late item at agenda item 24. Confidential exempt items, there are 2, which will be agenda item 23 and 24. Right, agenda item 7, the minutes of the overview committee held on the 24th of October 2024. There are recommendations from overview which you can find on your agenda on page 8. Would members from outside of Cabinet wish to make any comments on those at all? No. From inside of Cabinet? Or are we happy to agree these and move forward without specific recommendations? Can we go to a vote on that, please, Cabinet? All those in favour? Thank you very much. That's carried. Agenda item 8, the minutes of the budget setting and capital allocations panel of the 11th of November 2024. Recommendations to us can be found on the agenda page 13. Any comments, please, from outside of Cabinet on those? From inside of Cabinet? In which case, thank you, those go forward without specific further recommendations. Agenda item 9, the minutes of the Leisure Strategy Forum held on the 11th of November 2024. Recommendations to Cabinet on page 18. Again, any members from outside of Cabinet wish to make a comment? Anybody from inside of Cabinet wish to make a comment? No, thank you, those go forward without further specific recommendations. Agenda item 10, the minutes of the Recycling and Waste Partnership Board on the 12th of November 2024. These can be found on page 22 of your agenda. Members from outside of committee, any comments? Inside of committee? Thank you very much. Those go forward without specific recommendations. I'm minded that I took a vote on agenda item 7. Should I have been taking a vote on 8 and 9 and 10 as well? Mel, what do you think?
It's the mood of the meeting as well, so if members would have said if they had any point of order on that. So
okay, just crack on. Okay, thank you very much. Agenda item 11, excuse me, the minutes of the Housing Review Board of the 7th of November 2024, recommendations on page 29. Anybody from outside of Cabinet, please? No, thank you. Cabinet? No, in which case those go forward without further specific recommendations. Agenda item 12, Councillor Loudon, please.
Sorry, Chair, I know you've just asked the monitoring officer about process, and I just wondered, given that what we've been considering up until now has not been quite as
expensive?
Expensive, yes. That's one word.
Yeah.
I just wondered whether it might be useful if we were to vote on this one.
I agree. I think that's a good point then. So please, we're on agenda item 11, the minutes of the HRB on the 7th of November 2024. Cabinet, all those in favour, please? Thank you very much indeed. I think for sake of form, I'm going to do the same for agenda item 12 as well. The minutes of Arts and Culture Forum, 6th of November, recommendations on page 38. Anybody from outside of Cabinet? Councillor Hawkins, please.
Thank you. I just wanted clarity on the recommendation. It's a subject to further information being provided on KPIs. Then Cabinet does X, Y, Z. I don't know if that further information's come forward for Cabinet to take forward X, Y, Z.
Yes, Charlie Plowden, please. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Chair. Just a point of clarification, I spoke to Andy Wood just earlier, our Director of Place, and the intention is to bring a report to Cabinet in January detailing the specific requests and the KPIs that we discussed at the Arts and Culture Forum. So there's a formal process for Cabinet to discuss that and hopefully agree the recommendations that are forward. So it's just a point of clarification, Chair.
Thank you, Charlie. Is that okay for you, Castle Hawkins? Thank you very much. In which case, can we go to a vote? All those in favour, please, on those. Thank you very much indeed. We now go to, and thank you to all of those committees and forums for all your work bringing this forward to Cabinet for us. Thank you. Agenda item 13 is the elections update from our returning officer in this capacity. Melanie Wellman, please.
Thank you very much, Leader. Yes, this report updates you in relation to the lessons learnt exercise that we've conducted in relation to both the Police and Crime Commissioner and parliamentary election, and specifically focuses on the issue that we had in relation to just over 49,000 records, i.e. poll cards, not having been delivered. It lines the steps that we took when we became aware of the issue, and also the steps that we've now been put in place moving forward to ensure that such an error doesn't happen again. So as part of the process, when we became aware of the error, we reported it to the Electoral Commission as we were required to do. We've subsequently been advised by the Electoral Commission that they were very happy with the process that we followed, and that we gave them all the information that they required, and that therefore no further action is needed. In terms of the printers, they themselves took the issue very, very seriously and immediately conducted a full investigation of what had happened, and arranged for all of the poll cards to be reissued that day to ensure that our residents received them in the post the following day, and they paid for that being sent out by first class post. So as a result of that error, we then met with the printers to basically agree next steps moving forward to make sure that the issue couldn't occur again. So I've outlined in paragraph 9 of the report a number of steps that are improvements that are being made moving forward. So effectively a reconciliation process to make sure that the number of records that we send over to the printers are the number of records that are printed. So I've outlined those. We wanted to make sure that when people are receiving their elections paperwork, that they're aware of the importance of that mail moving forward. And there were a number of local authorities that use the purple sort of flash on the envelope. So we've also introduced that so that people will know it's not the normal post that they usually receive, and therefore hopefully will recognise it's something really important and something that they need to look at. We did have another issue in relation to the numbering on the back of some ballot papers, but our internal processes picked up that issue, and therefore we were able to arrange for those ballot papers to be reissued by the printers before they were circulated. So that sort of demonstrated really that our internal checking procedures are working in terms of identifying these issues. I'd say it's obviously really unfortunate that the error occurred, but I'm really satisfied that the printers took the matter really seriously. And we actually trialled the new processes at the by-election that we had in September, and those new processes worked really well. So whilst a really unfortunate incident, I feel that, you know, we further improved our processes as a result of it. We did manage to get obviously the poll cards out to everybody on the Monday before the election, and we certainly got a lot of feedback that people were receiving those poll cards coming through. And as I've outlined in the report, we stepped up our customer services support to make sure, and our comms to make sure that everybody was aware of the issue, and the fact that they didn't need a poll card to vote if they hadn't received those. And that publicity seemed to work really well, and we had returned more votes than the national average, which was an encouraging statistic, really. So happy to answer any questions that anybody has. We obviously have done a full lessons learned exercise on all elements of the election, and we're just going through all of those and making sure that those will feed into our risk management and our project plan moving forward for the next election in May. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much indeed, Mel, for that comprehensive written and oral report. Would anybody from outside of Cabinet like to comment? Councillor Goodman, please.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. Just one point, Melanie, is that it came as a shock to me, and I'm sure to a lot of people reading the report. And you informed the Electoral Commission. Were those candidates standing at the election informed by the Electoral Commission or ourselves? Because this could have affected the election if it hadn't been noticed in the quick reaction from our council.
I can't comment on whether the Electoral Commission did, but we notified through the agents straight away. Yeah.
I think Peter and I tragically could confirm I don't think we heard anything, did we, from the Electoral Commission, Peter, as far as I'm aware? Oh, it didn't affect me. And the reason for that is we weren't standing in that constituency. Thank you, Councillor Olive, my former agent, for reminding me of that. Right, who else do we have? Yes. Councillor Collins, please.
Thank you, Chair. A number of farmers went to vote with their gun licences. Their gun licence is issued by the police and it has a photo on it and everything. And they were turned away, but they didn't go back again. Also, I took this with me. This badge would not let me vote. Yet, I came in here last Thursday when all the councillors and officers and everybody had run away because a bit of snow was on the ground. I come in for the meeting, and this will open most of the doors in this building. I could go anywhere I wanted. Also, I watched Parliament on the 13th of November when they discussed voter ID, and nothing was said then about gun licences being allowed in the future. They said about veterans' cards, that they can vote with them in the future, which they can't at the moment. Can those representations be made to the Electoral Commission about these gun licences? Maybe our cards here.
I don't think that's part of the current process we're looking at in terms of feedback.
No,
is
I
it,
think
Mel?
we're going slightly off. We've got a very strict list of things that we can accept, and clearly gun licences is not one of those things. But yeah, we are slightly going off the.
Can you not do this for the future?
Well, it really is for the Electoral Commission, so we don't really have.
But they
much
need
input into
feedback,
that.
surely.
So, I mean, we can feed that back. I can feed that back through the elections team. That's no problem at all.
Yeah. Any other forms of identification people would like to include in that list? Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Roy. Did you manage to vote, though, Roy? Can I ask? Of course you did. All right. Okay.
I've only ever missed one election, and that's 1907. Every other one I've always voted.
Very good. And these farmers they didn't take their guns with them at the same time. I assume, no, okay, right, very good. Right, so we move on to, well, we don't move on. We've had Councillor Goodman. We're being asked to note the report. Councillor Jackson, please.
Thank you. I just wanted really to extend my thanks to our monitoring officer, Melanie, and the elections team for bringing this information through to us. Obviously, it was a very unfortunate turn of events, not one that we would have liked to have happened to us, but certainly highlighted some weaknesses within the system that another council may have fallen into that trap. So whilst we would have preferred it to happen to someone else, it happened to us. And actually we're in a stronger position, as is the printer, as a result of that. So there is a positive lining here. And certainly I think the communications output that followed on, along with our customer service reaction, may very well have even drawn greater highlight on the election that took place. So not ideal, but we're in a better position as a result. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Councillor Loudon, please.
I wanted to just raise an allied issue, and that is because I was on the number of the polling stations on the day, and therefore understood what residents were saying, voters were saying. So whilst, and I don't disagree with anything in the report, and yes, we tried to turn it around as quickly as possible. What was coming across from quite a lot of people was that even though we in the printers then sought to put things right, what then seemed to let everybody down was the postal service. And I don't know whether that's something that's specific in one part of the district or whether it's across the piece. And I just wonder whether in the lead up to the next elections, which I presume are the county ones, whether we're able to have communication contact with the relevant persons in the postal service, because I think we are being let down, and I mean here, not just, and we are being let down more broadly, frankly, by the poor delivery, and that's not blaming the individual posties, I think it's the system. So I just wonder whether that's something you're aware of, Melanie, and whether or not we can pick it up.
Obviously, it was something that was talked about nationally as well. We certainly were in contact with Royal Mail at various points, and it's something that certainly the Electoral Commission, they have corporate meetings, and Royal Mail are part of that process. So all the meetings that I went on in the preparation for the election talked about the discussions that had been had with Royal Mail nationally about obviously making sure that priority was given to this election. So there was a lot going on, but absolutely there were reports across the entire country. It's obviously, it's difficult, you know, we don't know why people may not receive post or what the issues are, but yes, it's an issue we're acutely aware of, and obviously we try and keep our dialogue with the Royal Mail. But it's difficult, obviously, in this case, we didn't know initially why people weren't getting them. So, but yeah, certainly something that we will make sure that we have that regular dialogue.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson, please.
Yeah, it's really just to touch on that. I mean, there's so much beyond our control because we've got a national postal service there. But I think the changes that have been made to the envelopes that go with the ballot papers will help, because it will help the postal workers recognise those pieces of mail when they come through. So they've been given that directive to prioritise that mail. Now they can spot it much quicker. So it works for our residents. It also works for the mail service.
Thank you very much, members. And Mel, we're asked to note the report, so I'm happy just to note the report. I don't think we need to vote on that. So let's move ahead then to the next item, which is agenda item 14. Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I was going to bring Councillor Hayward in on the previous item before I haven't quite shut it down. Would you like to come in?
Well, thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief. I mean, you know, Councillor Jackson has covered most. Melanie's covered the report. This was just human error. It happens. You know, we're not machines. These things do happen. The printer fessed up, and they put things right as best they could. You know, I once sent 1,200 dole checks to Leeds instead of to Slough. It happens. That's a postcode error. But two things come from this. One is that it's a very important reconfirmation that you don't need a poll card to vote. That our advanced comms can stress that as we go forward, as we take elections forward in the future, you do not need a poll card to vote. A lot of people believe you do. You do not. Secondly, from it's my personal view, the CO2 impact of sending out 150,000 pieces of card printed, all the transport costs, it's just archaic. And I know that's what we have to do, but I hope in the future there will be a better way, because it's not efficient, it's not good for the planet. But that's just my own view on that. But I'm heartened by this, heartened by the monitoring officer's report, and that, you know, we've learnt lessons and we've improved our process. We did all we could. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayward. So, as I said, unless there's any objection, I'm happy just to note this report from Melanie with thanks. Very good. We move on now to agenda item 14, the River Axe Local Nutrient Mitigation Fund Round 2 Award. And we've got Will Dommett here, our District Ecologist, along with Charlie Plowden, our Assistant Director for Countryside and Leisure. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Before we get into the report, I suppose I've got to make a small confession. As much as I'd like to take all the credit for delivering the success of this scheme, it is down to Will Dommett, our District Ecologist. And so on behalf of myself, and I'm sure on behalf of the Cabinet, to extend our congratulations to him for putting together a very, very complex bid that has drawn down a sizable amount of funding.
No,
So,
absolutely, and that should be noted in the minutes. Thank you, Charlie.
and I will enjoying the success of the scheme as well. So,
And then in a very small font, something about Charlie.
Yes. So just pressing on to the report itself, Chair, it is a big report with lots of detail in it. So we'll just tackle this together. Will's very much the expert in this area and can field any specific technical queries and questions that may come from within or outside Cabinet. First of all, this is a really good news story for us. We'll be able to start addressing the long-standing issues impacting on the water quality and associated wildlife of the River Axe SAC. The actual amount is actually more than is in the report. It's 4.2 million. So once we have signed off the memorandum of understanding with the department, we'll be able to start deploying this to a variety of mitigation measures that will start to reduce the amount of phosphates entering the river at source. So very positive. As I said, it's a very complex and specialised area of work which needs to be delivered over the next 5 years to all the relevant ward members who will be impacted by the scheme to have a much more detailed briefing. As I say, there's a lot to unpack in the report that we probably can't touch upon today. So I have contacted all the relevant ward members that Will and I will do an officers briefing, hopefully before Christmas, but that may not be achievable, so maybe in early New Year, just to go through the programme, the scheme, and what we're looking at over the next 5 years to get a greater clarity and understanding of what the 4.2 million will deliver for us. So a huge amount of work to do. I'll pass on to Will and he'll touch on very briefly on the areas that we're going to be working on over the coming weeks and months.
Thank you, Charlie. So in terms of immediate priorities is for progressing the scheme is setting up a governance arrangement on how the scheme is going to be administered, process of how we can assess and agree grants for landowners for implementation of replacement of sewage treatment works, implementation of nature-based solutions such as riparian buffers, also looking at creating a nutrient credit trading scheme, how that's set up, how it's monitored, how we keep track of that. Also appointing a project team to deliver it, including a project manager and program manager. Luckily, we're also a lead authority for the scheme, so the River Axe encompasses Somerset and Dorset, so they were successful in the first round of the Local Nutrient Mitigation Fund, and they've been working on this for a while, so we can lean into their kind of learning, so we're not reinventing the wheels, and hopefully learning from any potential pitfalls from them. The Planning Advice Service also provide a specialist support group that we're a member of that also provide guidance within this field as well.
Thanks, Will. Yeah, Charlie, keep going.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Chair, I mean, if there are any really detailed, specific questions, obviously I've set up the briefing, or intended to set up the briefing with ward members, so I'm happy to take it there, but obviously there are any other sort of questions, we'll attempt to answer them here and now.
Can I just come in with a quick one, Charlie and Will, which is about the establishment of a programme board. Have you got any sort of insights or information around that?
So Somerset and Dorset have been...
Will, yeah, I was going to say, Will, if you look this way, then you're going to be so much more comfortable. There was a cricket commentator called Richie Benno who used to just look at himself on the screen. Like that, you know. So anyway,
Okay.
go on, mate.
Right. Yeah, so Somerset and Dorset have been working with a similar arrangement. They've set up a kind of cross-boundary stakeholder group, and also with Natural England, the Environment Agency, to kind of oversight of the measures. So there's certain, say, legal agreements if we're setting up mitigation measures in one district, and how we could use those kind of measures within our districts as well. So that I think it's they tried to say keep it relatively, tried to keep it as simple as possible in terms of that, but there, be a kind of core steering group who would have oversight of the project.
Just to say that on the chair, just quickly, I mean, we've been speaking to Andy about the sorts of governance ranges, and we've got good experience, I think, with the science park. I think you mentioned, Andy, that could be a good point of reference for us to look at.
Thank you, Chair. So, yeah, we do have good experiences, Councillor Young will know, and this is a formal joint committee. We do obviously have for the existing Habitats Joint Committee, which is able to take collective and binding decisions on behalf of the three authorities. I think the point of discussion with Charlie was around, something that's potentially a bit less formal would work in these circumstances, but would still allow the engagement of key stakeholders.
I suppose the question is, drawing on from your answer, Andy, is it planned to have any member involvement on that board? There is. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions from outside? Councillor Goodman, please.
Yes, thank you. A really interesting report, and you make it sound so easy, but I know it's a lot more complicated than you said. Just a very minor point. I looked through this and couldn't find it, and somebody's going to say it is in here, but what's the net cost to us to do all this as an authority, or is it all grant funded? Thank you.
Yeah, the bid is included revenue costing for the employment as well. So it's included it within the scheme, and the idea is the sale of nutrient credits would be recycled back into the scheme. So we're not asking for additional funding for that.
Thank you. Anybody else from outside Cabinet, please? Inside Cabinet, anybody like to comment to this? Councillor Young, please.
Yes, I'd just like to say thank you to Will Dermott on this. It's great that we've done this. It's good news not only for East Devon but the whole of the Axe catchment, and also good news to nature and to anything that lives in the river. Thank you.
Councillor Jackson, please.
Thank you. Obviously, the River Axe is incredibly important to those within my ward and also the other wards within that catchment area. And this is great news for the river in the long term. I'm reassured by the discussion so far around the makeup of that board, and I look forward to that report coming forward to Cabinet, laying out those things that aren't yet decided. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, very much for that. Councillor Olive, please.
Thank you, Chair. I wouldn't normally, but I just wanted to observe that it's really great to see East Devon stepping into the breach where a scheme that was proposed by Natural England fell apart earlier this year. So thank you very much, Will, Charlie, for your efforts on this.
Thank you. Councillor Hookway, please.
Yes, I'd like to continue the theme of Councillor Olive here as an observation. Firstly, I absolutely support this. I think it is a fantastic scheme. But as a general level, why are we doing this as an authority? Surely this is something that the Environment Agency should be dealing with. And I do wonder that, again, I'm going to use my favourite word of the moment, precedent. Are we setting a precedent here? Are we going to be picking up the other rivers? As a resident of Exmouth, I look forward to a similar project being undertaken for the River Exe one day. Who's going to do that? So I know, as again, I stress, I absolutely support this, but I do wonder long term what work it's going to lead to us for the other parts of the district, because from my perspective, the environment is absolutely key to tourism and culture within the district, and we really must do to the other rivers what is happening in the River Axe at the moment. Thank you,
Thank you, Councillor Hookway. Councillor Ledger, please.
I have to disagree with Councillor Hookway on that. I hope that this doesn't have to go into the other rivers. It shows that they're in a bad state. I hope we don't get to that. We're coming up with a solution, and that is a benefit there. But we don't want it in the whole of the district. We want it contained within the Acts. We want to see improvements made there because they are needed. And I'm happy to propose all the recommendations listed in the report, Chair.
Thank you. Nick, do you want to come back?
Can I just very quickly? Latest information I've received and other councillors within Exmouth is that the Ex is in as bad a state as the Axe. The situation is really serious. But I absolutely take a point. I'd be happy to second the recommendation as well.
Thank you, Nick. Your comments are noted. I don't think we have to come back any further on that as well. So with that, all those members of Cabinet in favour of those recommendations, please. Thank you. That's unanimous. Very good. Thank you for that. Congratulations, Will and Charlie. Thank you. And we will be, as we're going to do increasingly now, make sure that there's a press comms already ready to go out after this vote now. Basically, it's a very important story, this, not only because it's a serious achievement of our council, both officers and members, but because of the environmental consequences. It's right at the top of people's agendas. Thank you. Agenda item 15, more good news. The Cranbrook's modular space delivery in Cranbrook Town Centre. We've got a report coming from Francis, who I'll introduce in a minute, but we've got. No, let's go to Francis first, and then I know that there are two members from outside, or one inside and one outside the committee who want to speak. So over to you, Francis, please, who's our Enterprise Zone Project Manager and supported by Naomi Harnett, our Corporate Lead Major Projects and Programmes. But I believe it's Francis who's going to address this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the Cranbrooks development will support the delivery of Cranbrook Town Centre through the installation of modular units, which will provide commercial floor space targeted towards the small and start-up businesses. The project's been in the pipeline for a number of years and has been awarded 1.9 million of funding from the Devon and Torbay Net Zero Capital Programme, which comes from the devolution package. Cranbrook Town Council going to enter into a funding agreement to lead the delivery, own and operate the scheme. East Devon will act as the accountable body for the funding, and we will also procure Studio 4 to design the scheme and prepare the planning application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Francis. You can come again. That's exactly the length of report that's ideal. Thank you very much. Right, okay. Yes, just on that, a comment I'd make is, so this flows from some brilliant agile work our officers did at zero notice. So members may recall the establishment, in principle, of a combined county authority for Devon and Torbay. There was then an appeal, I think, for a total of £16 million worth of funds across East Devon that were related to, for applications for funds that were related to environment, green issues and whatever. And our officers brilliantly pulled this one out of the desks and got it in very quickly, and it was approved in the first round, and it's one of the largest bids that's gone through. Other district councils have got perhaps, £85,000 out of this initial tranche, or only tranche, in fact, but we've managed to get, the thick end really of 2 million. So congratulations on that. So I'd like to come first of all, because I know Councillor Blakey would like to speak on this, please.
Thank you, Chair. And thanks to Francis Wosley as well, who managed to steal my thunder by essentially saying in her first couple of paragraphs what I was going to, but never mind.
Thank you, Councillor Blakely. Right, go on, Kev.
The town centre in Cranbrook, members will be aware, is just coming into play now. The Morrison supermarket is expected to open in 3 weeks. One of the small businesses is already open, and the others are expected to open shortly, either shortly before or shortly after the Morrison's opening, which is all great news. But at the risk of stating the obvious, as East Devon towns go, Cranbrook is a Johnny-come-lately. And in order for it to survive and thrive as a commercial base, it's not only got to be good, I think it's got to be different as well. And that's where Cranbrook comes into play, and that's why certainly most of the town councillors and certainly the ward members have pushed very hard for this. This is not just about providing quick space. It's certainly not a cheap way of doing it, but what it will do is give Cranbrook that unique selling point. It'll make it different to anywhere, not only in East Devon, but in the entire of Devon and beyond. So we have high hopes that this is going to act as an attraction in itself to draw business in for the benefit of the town, obviously, but it will also draw in from the surrounding villages and perhaps from further afield. The fact is that this has been 10 years in the making, but it is now at its time. And as the report says, speedy action is now required. So for that reason, I'm happy to support the recommendations. I have but one little question, which is that noting that and section 2.5 of the report, it mentions that the delivery will be by way of a procurement framework. Can officers tell me how we ensure best value for the money that's being allocated to this project? Obviously, we want to make sure that every penny is used to provide the best possible result. I will leave it at that, and thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Before I come back to Francis or Naomi to answer that question, just to thank you and the Cranbrook District Councillors and Cranbrook Town Council for your role in all of this, working with District over, in your case, I know it's many years, so thank you. Francis?
Thank you. I'm going to pass over to Naomi.
Naomi?
Thank you, Chair. So to ensure value for money, we've written a very tight brief of the work required. We've benchmarked the work against other similar work that we've sought from other consultants to prepare planning applications. So we're confident that we're going to achieve good value for money, and also with this work will be supported by both the Town Council and ourselves, and so they'll get that double scrutiny to ensure that they're not only meeting the brief, but meeting both parties' needs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Naomi. Okay, thank you. Nobody else from outside Cabinet, so I'll come to Councillor. Councillor Goodman, please.
Thank you. Well, look, this is a really good report to agree with.
You are meant to leave before the debate happens, so we haven't debated yet. But so can you make your? Well, actually, no. I think we've. What do we do? We've agreed that Councillor Blakey doesn't have to, but Sam Mel does he because he shouldn't vote. What do we do with Sam here?
I thought both members were going to leave the room, so they were just going to ask their questions, and then they're going to leave the room.
Okay, in which case, let's let Councillor Goodman, because I think it may be a comment for. So if you can ask question or comment, Sam, now, and then you and Kevin, you could do it from a sitting position. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, that feels like a lot of drama for that. It's a great scheme. Please support it. Obviously, you've mentioned the clerk at the Town Council has done a great job, as well as officers here of getting this over the line. It's a great opportunity for start-up businesses, so really it's what's probably needed in that area of the district as well as the town. And if we can, obviously, all parties make sure we're pulling forward quickly, because we know what government's like with timescales. This is a lot of money coming from government. Let's get it over the line as quickly as we can. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Can you and Councillor Blakey now depart through the trapdoor as fast as possible? Thank you. Yeah, we'll call you back, probably. Very good. I think the members have gone. Councillor Goodman, please.
It's a really minor point, Leader. Under climate change, you've got medium impact. Now, obviously, there are some of the funding is coming from Torbay Net Zero. I'm sure there will be impacts on climate in a positive way, but could we have some description on what the savings is, etc.? And I think that's something that often happens with cabinet reports. We don't have any explanation of what we mean by climate change medium or high risk. We should have lines under there what it actually means. And it's something that came up in scrutiny recently.
Okay.
And I don't expect the officers to know that answer, but
no,
it's going forward really, Leader, that's all.
Yes, yes. It's difficult, isn't it? Because everything affects, just you talking now affects the climate, so to speak. But, not being personal. Okay, but that's noted, I'm sure. Thank you very much. So bringing it inside Cabinet, Councillor Olive, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I want to start by saying what a fantastic contrast to have this wonderful project coming forward only a few weeks after Taylor Wimpey put up a horrific monstrosity of a sales centre without planning permission in the middle of Cranbrook, against which we've taken enforcement action. So a pleasant change to be getting some good news. Thank you to those who put working on the project. I wholeheartedly endorse what Councillors Blakey and Hawkins have already said, and I'd like to propose the recommendations as set out, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Olive. Councillor Rickson, please.
I support the comments made by Councillor Olive. I'm particularly pleased because two of the ward members are here and they obviously are supportive of this. And so I think we should take this forward.
Thank you very much. Councillor Haywood, please.
Thank you, Chair. My comment really can be summed up by 3.1, the conclusion. This is a critical step to the ongoing development of Cranbrook. I'm delighted to be part of the Cabinet that endorses this, that votes for it, I hope, and also part of an administration working with the ward members and the Town Council that has delivered finally for the people of Cranbrook a town centre. Because now, after 5 years of going to Cranbrook, I will no longer be asked, when are we getting our town centre? Hopefully in 3 weeks, I won't be asked, when is the supermarket going to be opening? So it's been proposed, it's been seconded. If we can move to the vote, Chair, with your forbearance.
Happy to do so, Vice Chair, in which case let's committee go to the vote. Although Marianne.
Can I second it, please, Chair?
Would you like to second it, Councillor Rickson? Oh, we just meant to say yes for comic effect. Okay, we'll take Councillor Ledger as the seconder of that. Yeah, thank you very much. Committee, all those in favour, please. Yep, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Yes, shall we thank you? We're just retrieving Councillors Blakey and Hawkins. So, councillors, just for your information, the recommendations were approved. Yep, thank you. Thank you very much. We now go to agenda item 16, our peer challenge review update, and we have a report here from Joanne Avery. Jo Avery, who's
tonight, Chair.
Oh,
tonight, Chair, I shall be Joe. I've agreed with Joe, who's the author of this report, that because it's so complex, I'll front it.
So, for those watching online, this is Councillor John Loudon here.
Thank you, Chair. So what we have here is the update on the peer challenge recommendations and delivery plan. As colleagues will be aware, tomorrow we see the welcome return of the peer review team. And the report and the attachment of the delivery plan here is prepared for their return, which we hope they will receive with favour. And this follows up the discussions that we had in Cabinet back in July around the issues. So what you have attached to the report are 25 recommendations and the actions that we have put in place. All of the recommendations, I'm pleased to say, are being progressed, and a number of them have actually been now completed, signed off, finished. And unfortunately, there's one outstanding action which we can get around to now, but it's been subject to delay for good reason internally. So, Chair, if I may, I would ask that Cabinet receive the peer challenge recommendations and the delivery plan and note the progress to date of the actions. And in doing so, as I said at the beginning, I want to thank Jo for the work she's done in trying to pull this together. I want to thank all the relevant officers who've committed their time and energies to making the recommendations become actions that will benefit this council as we move forward. So I hope that we can endorse the recommendation, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Loudon. Just while we're here, anybody like to second that? Councillor Olive, thank you. Anybody from outside of Cabinet like to pass comment on this? No, thank you very much. We've had a proposer and a seconder. Would anybody like to speak on this? No, in which case can we go to the vote, please, that we receive the peer challenge recommendations and delivery plan and note the progress of the actions to date. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Excellent. Thank you. And Councillor Loudon, I'm assuming you're going to present item 21 as well, therefore, which is the update on the council plan later. Thank you. Agenda item 17 is a financial monitoring report for 24-25, month 6, September, to be presented by John Symes, our finance manager. Thank you. Thanks, John. There you are.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the report is presenting the current year-end forecasts. So current predictions of both the general fund and the housing revenue account reserve are being maintained at or above the agreed limits. So just diving into the general fund. So since the month 5 report was presented to committee, service area variances remain materially in line. The month 6 figures see a reduction in costs within building control following an agreed reserve contribution. We've also been in receipt of unbudgeted homelessness grant to the tune of £195,000, which is showing as an increased favourable position in this area. 3 material areas of variance have been highlighted again, these being the lower than budgeted planning fee income, the adverse position regarding public conveniences. Yeah. Tonight, Chair. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you, Chair.
Does anybody remember it's Lisa with a Z, not Lisa with an S? Am I playing to a too young a crowd? Councillor Loudon knows, come on. Right, sorry, John.
No worries, Chair. Thank you. So yes, so continuing. So planning fee income is currently an adverse. There's adverse positions regarding public conveniences. However, there's favourable positions within street scene regarding recycling income due to higher market values. We continue to see favourable interest receipts with current predictions for the year being nearly £1 million favourable. This offsets some agreed reserve transfers and the budgeted £500,000 increase to the general fund balance. So therefore, the general fund balance is currently predicted to be in the region of £5.5 million at year end. Second in the report covers the housing revenue account. So again, it's summarising the use of the housing revenue account balance as agreed earlier in the year, making the year-end prediction £1.7 million. So no change since the month 5 report. The breakdown within the report itself goes into detail around the income lines and expenditure lines. So that's just been updated over the past month following the weekly meetings, just picking up those actuals that are in the system, as well as picking up any work plans, any commitments, sort of like in the system, if you like. So that's how we're coming to those forecasted positions. Just of particular note, if I may, Chair, the report picks up at section 3, I believe, recent changes regarding right to buy receipts, and there's a recommendation relating to this. In July, greater flexibility of the use of right to buy receipts were announced. Essentially, this means we now have the option to use 100% of those receipts rather than the 50% as capital financing. If agreed, the increased flexibility in financing will allow the previously agreed funding to be utilised to fund recently identified compliance work. Within the same section of the report, being section 3, there's just confirmation around previous right to buy receipts. And we've had no need to repay any of those receipts in the past. Rule changes back in 2021 extended the time we have to spend those receipts to 5 years from 3 years. So the management of those right to buy receipts in that period and since has meant we've not had to repay any receipts at all. As always, the final 2 sections cover Treasury and Capital. So just giving a snapshot at the end of month 6. I'll take any questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much indeed, John. I was just looking at the right to buy issue there and just going through the report. I might be an idiot here, but on 3.83, we seem to be purchasing, and it's called an RTB replacement, 1 Corley Avenue, Axminster, which looks like 240,000. I'm trying to understand what that is, because that's not us receiving receipts. It seems to be us buying something out from somebody.
Yeah, so that's just part of the replacement programme in and around that one. And then the RTBs can be used as financing behind that.
Okay. I think I understand that. Thank you very much. Right. Anybody from outside Cabinet like to say anything about this subject, please? Anybody from inside Cabinet? Councillor Ledger?
I was only going to talk about housing because obviously I would. It's just, we're at the end of the second quarter now, and it's just really encouraging that we've managed to find, we basically resolved previously that we'd look to find $250,000 in savings in that year. We're forecasted to save in the region of 310,000, so that's in excess of what we've previously done. Plus it gives us a small buffer if we are slightly out with our forecasting. So it's just really welcoming, listening to Audit and Governance earlier, and how much this is getting scrutiny throughout all of the separate committees as well as HRB. I'm very confident that we're not going to be in the same position as we were last year. That we're not going to have a repeat of that, and we are getting to a really strong governance point, especially with the HRA, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Ledger. Is that our Councillor Hayward, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose a recommendation, if Councillor Ledger hadn't already done so, and without stealing Councillor Young's thunder, on page 4, there's a reference to recycling material, a favourable income position from Card & Glass. Obviously, that's credit should be paid to our officers who negotiate these terms. But again, as a comms piece, encouraging all of our residents to recycle as much as you can, because if you recycle it, we can sell it, and that helps service and provide other services within this district. So recycle, do what you can. We can then use that money to provide amenities and services. It's as simple as that. If you don't, we all lose out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayward. So that's a proposal from Councillor Hayward. Anybody wish to second that? Councillor Loudon, thank you very much indeed. And I'd just like to add very briefly to what Councillor Hayward has said, is also to thank our teams who go out there and collect in all weathers and separate out boxes and bags of card and glass, and that's how, and they are amazing. And I have almost never had a complaint or anything other than praise about our waste and recycling crews out there. So we're very lucky to have them. With that, shall we go straight to the vote? All those in favour, please. Thank you, that's unanimous. Excellent, thank you, John. We now go to the UK Share Prosperity Fund Programme Amendment, and we're going to hear from Andy Wood, our Director of Place. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Chair. Members will be aware that we have been deploying funding that has been received direct from government in relation to both the UK Share Prosperity Fund and the Rural Economic Prosperity Fund over the last 2 and a bit years, that in total is worth about £2.7 million. That has been deployed in relation, in accordance with an agreed implementation plan and in conjunction with key stakeholders. We've recently received updated guidance from MHCLG, which has had the effect of creating a hard stop at the end of March. Previous assumptions, working assumptions, were that funding could be committed but defrayed beyond that period, if that makes sense. In order to address that scenario, clearly the last thing we want to do is hand money back to central government. A bit of gymnastics is required, and you can see the report sets out a proposal to effectively divert funding into the Public Toilets Investment Programme and the Carbon Action Programme, which we know will spend this financial year. And that's on the basis of there being a reciprocal arrangement to allow continuity of delivery into financial year 25-26. One last point just to highlight is that there is, I think, now a commitment by national government for a further year of UK share prosperity funding, but some ambiguity currently on about how that will be routed given the context of the new county combined authority coming into being. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Andy. And it's interesting, isn't it, given that the statutory instruments have now been passed in Parliament, that there's still some opacity around that issue about the UK is because it's live. We shall see. Thank you very much indeed, Andy. Anybody from outside Cabinet wish to comment or ask questions on that? Inside Cabinet, please. Councillor Haywood.
Chair, again, I'm happy, more than happy to propose this recommendation. Thanks are due to our officers. And as Mr. Wood says, it is, it used to be called creative accounting, but that has negative connotations.
It does, Councillor Haywood. Anybody else like to speak?
Gymnastics, I think, is a very good expression. We are simply moving money around to make sure, and the pertinent point is in 1.5, that we do not have to return nearly £400,000 of funding to the Treasury. Instead, we'll keep that £400,000 with East Devon, return nothing, and do the best we can for our residents, our businesses. And may I also abuse my position here, Chair, to thank all the panels and forums made up of cross-party members who have worked diligently with officers. Officers do 99% of the work, and present to us reports that cross-party members consider, we approve, we give these funds out. It's been helping for the last 2-3 years, and I hope if we get some more money, it will continue to help. But I wholeheartedly applaud not returning £400,000 to the Treasury and putting it to better use within East Devon for the benefit of all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you for your work on those committees as well. Councillor Hookway, please.
Yes, I'm happy to second this. I think it's an absolutely excellent use of managing money for some very effective projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely. We've got a proposer and a seconder. Let's go to a vote, please. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Andy, and for Tom, who's not with us tonight, but for the work he has done on this. Going now to agenda item 19, amendments to the PASPO Dog Control 2023 about Kilmington, and we've got Matt Blythe here with, I hope, a relatively short report on this subject that we heard extensively about quite recently as well. Matt.
Thank you, Chair. I will do my best. So, councillors will remember the Public Space Protection Order is a tool under the Antisocial Behaviour Crime Policing Act 2014 intended to deal with particular nuisance or problem affecting a specified area, which includes dog control. Following a Cabinet decision in 2023, control of dog public spaces protection order was prepared and sealed and is available on the council website. However, unfortunately, it wasn't realised that there were two transcription errors on the existing public space protection order that required amendment. On Kilmington playing field, the order currently states there is a dog on lead requirement at Kilmington play area, which should state there's a dog on lead requirement at Kilmington playing field and a dog exclusion requirement at the children's play area. And at All Hallows Honiton, the order currently states that there's a dog exclusion requirement at playing fields, and it should state it only applies to the sports pitches only. Any changes to a sealed public spaces protection order requires a full consultation, and members will remember that we brought that to Cabinet a couple of months ago, and that was approved. The public consultation was undertaken between 14th of October 2024 and 28th of October 2024, and all interested parties that we're aware of in these specified areas, and that I think is a very specific consultation within the affected areas. Parties included Honiton RFC, who released the All Hallows sports pitches, the District Council from Honiton Wards and Honiton Town Council, and in terms of the Kilmington one, consult the trustees for the Arthur Hitchcock Charity, who maintain the Kilmington Playing Field, Kilmington Cricket Club, Kilmington Dog Walk Association and Kilmington Parish Council. And we also wrote to residents living in the areas and with the local members. So the feedback that we got was, in terms of All Hallows in Honiton, was that the 70 responses that we received, 28 were not in favour of the proposal and 42 were in favour. Now, the majority of the response who were not in favour of the proposal felt that it would be difficult to enforce. So to actually have the playing pitches excluded but the surrounding area not, they felt was not appropriate, and the parish council, the town council came back to that effect as well. They suggested it should be dogs on leads around the area. We would recognise that. However, in reality, if we wanted to put that into place, we'd have to go back out to consultation again. So we recommend that's probably not the best way forward for now. We can put that into the next full consultation that we do on the Public Space Protection Order when it comes back in 2026. In relation to the Kilmington playing field, we had 257 responses. There were 79 responses who did not agree that dogs should be kept on leads, 178 responses who did agree, so the overwhelming majority were in favour. In terms of the comments that we received, in favour, as you already heard from Mr Huscroft and Mr Lavender, who spoke earlier, who were in favour of retaining the dogs on leads requirement on the playing field in Kilmington. The main focus was on antisocial behaviour from dogs and from fouling. The Residents Association, the Kilmington Dog Walkers Association, who formed the majority of the response on those against the proposal, they came up with an alternative proposal, which would be to look at some sort of time restriction, suggesting between May and October, dogs are not allowed on the field at certain times. Again, unfortunately, because we did not consult on this, we can't consider it at the moment, but it is something we will put forward in the next round of consultation. There's also a response from the Kennel Club, who flagged a few issues which we think we've already dealt with through the actual report. And they also mentioned something about ensuring the correct signage is there, which we'd also do. So ultimately, we feel that the public consultation supports the proposed recommendations, and therefore we would recommend to Cabinet that you approve the following variations to the Public Space Protection Order Dog Control 2023, and that's to change the requirement for dogs to be kept on leads at Kilmington Play Area to a dog on lead requirement at Kilmington Playing Field and a dog exclusion requirement at the Kilmington Children's Play Area, and to change the dog exclusion requirement All Hallows Playing Field Honiton to only apply to the sports pitches. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Matt, for that. Anybody from outside of Cabinet like to speak on that? Anybody from within Cabinet like to speak on that? Councillor Rickson, please.
Well, isn't it a shame that it's always the irresponsible few that damage the facilities for the majority? I think this is a very sensible proposal and I would recommend approval.
Thank you, Councillor Rickson. Anybody else like to speak or to second that? Councillor Olive?
Second.
Thank you very much indeed. So let's go to a vote on that. All those in favour, please. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. I'd just like to say thank you to all the people from both communities who contributed with a variety of views on this. They have been heard. They've been extensively scrutinised by officers and debated previously. So thank you for that, even if you may be disappointed with the outcome. We now move on to agenda item 20, the government consultation on remote attendance and proxy voting at council meetings. And that's back to Melanie now in her role as the Director of Governance and our Monitoring Officer.
Thank you very much, Leader. Yes, this consultation document closes on the 19th of December, and it's basically seeking our views on two areas. First of all, on members having remote attendance to council meetings, and the second part in relation to proxy voting at council meetings. I'll take each in turn. So in terms of the remote attendance, the draft proposed response is effectively fully supporting a move to the option for the local authority to have remote attendance. And so we've responded on that basis to make it as wide as possible so that we have that option available to us. In terms of the proxy voting, from an officer perspective and also from a portfolio holder perspective, we have some concerns about the proxy voting side. And the draft, therefore, at the moment, but this is obviously members will have views on this, is saying that we're not supportive of proxy voting and that we feel that the introduction of remote meetings would really negate the need to have proxy voting, which can be something that's quite difficult to manage, and you do need to have quite strong sort of rules around proxy voting, putting it in writing, how long in advance you need to appoint a proxy and all those types of things. So really it was just to generate a discussion as to whether you're happy with the proposed response or whether you think that we should approach it in a different way.
Thanks very much indeed, Mel. Anybody from outside of Cabinet wish to speak? Councillor Faithful.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm glad to hear Melanie's comments particularly about proxy votes, because to me, a proxy vote is predetermination. You cannot have taken part in a debate. Although you can, if you're doing it online, if you're proxy voting, you've already decided your vote before the debate has started. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Faithful. Good point. Councillor Beth Collins, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to sort of highlight how pleased I am that we've got such a progressive and positive response to this consultation. I think it's a fantastic move in the right direction for this local authority. As someone that works full time and can't always get to meetings, being able to do it at home whilst maybe I'm also working would enable me to be a little bit more flexible in my time. And for people that have got childcare, other caring responsibilities, illnesses, I think it's a fantastic move forward. So I'm in full support of this. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth, very much indeed for that. Anybody else from outside of Cabinet? Yes, Councillor Fernley, please, and then Councillor Gazzard.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I second what people are saying. It's absolutely wonderful that in this time of climate emergency that the Council is recognising this, as well as all our other difficulties to get into meetings, and that our officers did work on how much carbon was saved by not driving in over the pandemic. So to be in a position where we can reduce our carbon footprint even further is absolutely brilliant. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul, very much. Councillor Steve Gazzard, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, in essence, I would support the report, Chair. But as someone that struggles with technology, I find it extremely difficult. You've got to have the tools to do the job. And at present, I do not have the tools to do the job. And my device is in with Strata at the moment because it won't work properly. So therefore, I am disadvantaged already. And so if this comes in and I haven't got the technology to be able to zoom in still, you know, it's not been fair across the board. But I accept the essence of the report, and I would totally concur with what Melanie said about proxy voting as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve, very much. I think quite a lot of our IT is getting quite elderly. I think you and I both managed to get in during the pandemic, didn't we, to meetings, but it just seems to, the changes in formats and moving from Zoom to Teams has certainly completely scuppered me sometimes. I mean, what's out of interest, what's your main problem with the technology when it comes to this?
The problem is I can bring my laptop, which Strata have got, will work here. I can get connected, will work from the town hall, but it won't work from my home. So that's why I can't attend any Zoom meetings whatsoever unless I go into the town hall.
Okay, thank you. Well, we've noted that, and that's valuable to hear. Yeah, Mel, please.
No, I was just going to say, because Councillor Collins raised concerns earlier at Audit and Governance about his technology, and obviously Councillor Gazzard, so I'll personally take both of those away and make sure that that gets looked into for you.
Thank you. Councillor Goodman, please.
Yes, I want to agree with what everybody said, really. I think that we need to move forward and technology allows us to do it. I'd hate to see all councils' meetings being remote because I think there is something about coming in and seeing people and talking to people. But I do support what Mel's put us through today. And I also support what several people said about the proxy vote. That does worry me because that could be very dangerous. How you do it, I'm not quite sure, but given a proxy vote, I think they need to get that right. So I think you're right to pay. I just think it's right to express those views to you. Thank you, Leader.
So Councillor Roy Collins and then back to Councillor Faithful.
Thank you. Well, I was elected here 18 months ago. I didn't even have a mobile phone. I have no idea how to use a mobile. I haven't got one now. I've had to come in here and learn this iPad myself, basically. I've spent £1,300 of my own money with Cosmec, them teaching me, because I wouldn't have got nowhere else. No, it's not good, really, to expect everyone to come. You need to make provision for people that can't use iPads and laptops and things. And also, I think the public need to see the council in action live, here, not on an iPad. A lot of people haven't got iPads. They don't know. I'm telling people all the time how to get in to see the council meetings on YouTube. They don't realise they can do that. I don't know whether perhaps next May, when you send out the rate demands, you could put it in the leaflet to let people know how they can watch these council meetings. Because when I take my iPad out and show them, you know, I show them what I've said at this meeting and they're amazed. They just love to see it, but they need to be taught.
No, I think that's a really excellent idea to always promote the fact that it's very easy to watch on YouTube, but I think you're right. Lots of people don't understand that they can. It may not be everybody's idea of an evening's entertainment, but certainly we're proud of putting it out there. And I'd love to see your... yeah, no, right. Thank you very much. Councillor Faithful, please.
Just to say, we are talking about having mixed meetings as well, not just sort of one or the other.
Yeah, Mel,
Absolutely.
around the hybrid issue, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, mixture of both.
Good, thank you. Right, let's come next to our portfolio holder, to Councillor Sarah Jackson, please.
Thank you. I'm really pleased to see that this has come forward so quickly from the new government. It's something that this council were lobbying for following the pandemic. We recognised at that time that being able to meet remotely and crucially vote, because that's the important part of this, was something that now enabled us to be as dynamic as possible in what was a very difficult time. And unfortunately, the previous government didn't recognise how important that was to local authorities to then go ahead and change the legislation. But this has come forward very quickly within this new term, and that's really, really reassuring. I hope to see this
come forward in the way that we might hope. To reassure my colleagues, my other members here, this is not going to stop you being able to attend meetings in person. What this does is gives local authorities the ability to be masters of our own destiny, to be able to choose when it's appropriate that we meet online, when we meet in hybrid, when we meet in person, and be able to perform our electoral duty by voting on matters, because that's the bit that we can't currently do. I think it's going to give us an extra level of resilience. Even in this last week, we've had meetings that we weren't able to progress because of severe weather events. Had this been in place already, we could have met and continued to do that without having to then reconvene a meeting that otherwise would have gone ahead. So I think it's really, really positive. I have, as already touched on by our monitoring officer, expressed my concerns around the proxy vote, so I'm pleased to see that that's been picked up here. And I think it would also help encourage members of the public to engage in a way that they perhaps haven't done alongside our hybrid system, which is progressing, albeit with still a few technical difficulties to iron out. I think the crucial part of this, as Councillor Collins has picked up on as well, is this widens the ability for a much larger demographic to be able to consider being a councillor and to participate in local government, because there are so many blocks for people. So I think this is really, really positive. Let's see it come forwards. Thank you for the proposals in terms of our consultation response. I fully endorse that. I would propose that we accept it as is, but welcome any changes colleagues want to add to it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Ledger, please.
Thanks, Chair. Just covering off what Councillor Faithful said, would it be helpful under, I'm trying to think, is it 12 or 13, where it references proxy voting, that we should be stating that by enabling proxy voting, you are actually predetermined, and technically that's against the law. So it shouldn't be an option. Should we be more forthright within that and in our response?
Councillor Hayward.
Entirely to echo what Councillor Jackson, Councillor Faithful, Councillor Ledger have just said. Last week's strategic planning meeting was a case in point. There was a particular debate when the debate moved backwards and forwards, you know, many, many times, and members, including myself, changed our views within that session of that meeting. A proxy vote removes that, because you're coming into that meeting, you've been told how to vote. That's not democratic, and I'm delighted that we are taking this position here. 2019, the Welsh Government, who have devolved powers, allowed virtual voting. They've watched us for 5 years, just with you know, amazement that we haven't adopted this, that the previous government decided after the COVID period, when it was proved that it worked, that it improved engagement, that it reduced councils' carbon footprints, that it just could have just removed 2 words from the legislation just to have a bit of parliamentary time, take out in person from that act. They chose not to. And I am delighted that we're now moving forward, because it's a progressive, forward-thinking thing. But it doesn't mean that councils have to do it. It gives you the option. So if parish and town councils, and this council wants to have a meeting and members are absolutely set in their ways, they want to come in and sit in this room, brilliant, come and sit in this room. But members who have childcare arrangements, those who work, those who might be feeling poorly, those whose cars have broken down, there's atrocious weather, they can just dial in and they can still be democratically engaged instead of being excluded. So this is an absolute positive step. Applaud everything that's been said and wholeheartedly support it, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Loudon and then Councillor Olive, please.
2 points. The first is about the ability to use this to our collective advantage. And I give a similar example to Councillor Hayward. I sit on a town council, I sit on its planning committee, but it is a planning group. because so far we have been meeting remotely, because that's the easiest way, because we meet fortnightly. It's the easiest, quickest way to get through the business, which then adds an extra layer, because the minutes then have to go to the town council, and they have to be accepted or otherwise. So that's the first point. The other point I want to raise is being devil's advocate just for once, and that is around proxy voting. And I've operated in an environment where proxy votes were don't smile, Chair, were used quite often, and you don't have to go predetermined with a proxy vote. You could have a proxy vote which allows the holder to exercise their discretion in light of the debate that's there. I just throw that in for information.
I'd like to invite you to give us a history of the block vote in the trade union movement, but perhaps not tonight. Okay, thank you. Councillor Olive, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, picking up on the theme of playing devil's advocate, I thought I'd point out that actually we allow proxy votes for elections. There we go. I'll leave that hanging in the air. I'm not gonna push the point. I just thought I'd put the cat among the pigeons there. I also just wanted to strongly commend what Councillor Jackson said earlier. I've started something now, I can see, in terms of widening the accessibility of running for local elected office to a broader demographic. I went to school with a former councillor of this authority who resigned because he went to university and didn't feel that he could, in good conscience, continue serving as a member of this authority, being able to attend these meetings. That wouldn't have happened had he been able to do so and vote virtually, and we'd have had one more person under the age of X sitting on this authority. So if it's not already been seconded, I'll second Councillor Jackson's proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody watching online, this is as close as we get to the voice of youth, you know. Look, it's wearing a cardigan. Okay, so sorry. Councillor, Councillor Hookway, please.
Thank you, Chair. I do think that we ought to tick the carbon reduction box, because I think there are very significant benefits there. I mean, talking for myself, Exmouth from here is a round journey of 34 miles. If I come up here twice in a day, which has happened in the past, that's 68 miles. Now, there's carbon. I'm driving a petrol car. Well, I'm quite happy about that. So, you know, I'm putting carbon into the atmosphere. If we want to reduce carbon, let's go the whole hog and say we want to reduce carbon and set an example to other members of the public who haven't got that message yet either. So I do think we ought to take that box. I'd like to.
So I'm slightly confused there, Nick. I can see what you mean. So this is under question 8, and we've got big fat ticks on the first 3. But we don't see, yes, Mel, please. Sarah.
Yeah, I can cover that. That's quite easy. In the consultation, under the field that says should be considered because, they're multiple choice options, whereas the bit under and any other reasons that should be considered, they are free text fields. So we have added in carbon reduction rather than missed ticking it. So we have covered that. So a bit of reassurance for you. And of course, to my colleague, Councillor Olive, the difference with the general election is everyone has had time to listen to the debate before giving their proxy vote to someone. Thank you. Also, apples and oranges, Councillor Olive. Now, I'm just wondering how we can capture... Listen, don't start, lad. So let's... Dan made, I think, a very good point, which is just like... I think it probably comes at number 12, and we're saying we're not supportive of proxy voting, and we're saying one of the arguments is it negates the need for proxy, or that remote meetings would negate it. But I think you'd like something slightly firmer there, which is about the risk of proxy voting predetermination. Okay, is that something we could do?
Yeah,
There?
I've just put some wording down to refer to the concern, the perception of predetermination. So I'll add that to that paragraph if that's okay with members.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? No? In which case, Councillor Hayward?
only now that Councillor Oliver has started this thing, I'd like to just add. So I have voted once for a family member a proxy vote, and it was fair to say that between them asking me and me attending the polling station, you know, it was unlikely their view was going to change through debate. It's possible, but I'm very unlikely. But I think that's a slightly different. I take entirely your point that it is possible, but I think within the remit of what we do as elected members and what the members of the public would expect us to do, I think this reference in here sums it up. And thank you, Councillor Ledger, for bringing it forwards. That it's the perception of predetermination that's what debate is about. That's what keeping an open mind is all about. And that's why council cross-party works, because we can change our mind during debates. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So did we have a proposal? We did from Councillor Jackson, and we had a seconder from Councillor Rickson. Councillor Olive, thank you. In which case, please can we go to the vote on that? All those in favour? Thank you very much, committee. Thank you, Mel, very much for the report, and also Sarah, particularly as well as portfolio holder. We now go to agenda item 21, the update on the council plan delivery plan, which the portfolio holder, Councillor John Loudon, will bring us up to speed on. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Chair. And again, I'm grateful to Jo letting me go solo on this evening. I'll try and do her proud. You'll be aware that the council plan that we adopted with broad support across the council has been in place now for a full 2 quarters. And because we've got to that point, it was felt that it was an appropriate moment to be able to give an update to Cabinet and to colleagues. You'll be aware that we've got just over 100 actions in our action plan for the council plan, and so I'm indebted to officer colleagues for the work they've done to try and pull this up to date. And I'll say slightly more about giving updates into the future in a second. You'll be aware also that officers have been going through the service plan process, which is either come to an end or just about coming to an end, I hope. That in itself will bring some variations, not too many, I hope, but some variations to timetables, to objectives in the plan. And so we're going to need to make sure that we can be slightly nimble in all of this and be responsive to that. So I'm just setting that up as a possibility, and I'm not putting that as a big issue. If you look through the actions that are set out in the appendix, we have got 55 in progress. We've got 24 that have had some change or minor adjustments to their timelines or implementation plans. We've had 4 that have been completed, 20 not yet started, and 1 that hasn't yet been properly recorded. I think that shows excellent progress to date. What I said that we would be moving forward with further updates. That's going to be linked into the new corporate performance system, Chair, that has been introduced. That will give the ability for people like Jo, well, it'll make Jo's life, I think, a lot easier and a lot quicker, and it allows, as I understand it, officers to input directly into the system, allowing much greater data capture in a much more timely way. And what you've got in the report, Chair, is a forward reporting timetable. So we're looking at future Cabinet, so every quarter we'll try and pull together a report for Cabinet. The next one is on the 5th of March, and you'll see that the following 3 are to be confirmed. That's because at this point, as you'll appreciate, we don't have a timetable for the next council year. So once we've got that, we can then link it in to this. So, Chair, I hope that colleagues can accept the recommendation that Cabinet received the progress report of the delivery plan and note the progress of actions to date. And if I may, I think possibly we ought to have a second recommendation. A very, if I just say it first of all, then I can repeat it for Amanda and Melanie. Second, to note the update on the new corporate performance system, which is set out at the end there, because I think it's an important tool for officers and for the council. So it is to note the update on the new corporate performance system. Is that okay? So, Chair, I move.
Thank you, Councillor Loudon, very much. Excuse me. May I just ask one question, just in the body of number 40 on key actions? Not a key thing, but it's just I'm just trying to understand this one. So, which is around ensuring collaboration and engagement with town and parish councils. So at the moment, and that's good, the aim is great, regular engagement sessions with town and parish councils, including provision of training, etc. At the moment, that's down as a variation at one point and in progress in another. I'm just trying to understand the distinction between a variation and an in progress.
Thank you, Chair. Just can you point me to the one you're talking about?
Yes, it's 40. 40, also known as QS18.
Ah, it's at the end.
Yeah. Yes, sorry to throw that at you. And
No,
happy
no, I
to-
wouldn't have expected anything less, Chair.
No, well, well, I
Frankly.
wasn't predetermined, you see. While John's looking, would anybody else like to? Councillor Goodman?
I just think we need to remember.
Oh, sorry, Mike. Well, apparently Dan can answer that on the spot.
So there's two parts to it. So the first part is the regular engagement session with towns and parish councils, including provision of training. That's a variation, whereas the undertake a survey with town and parish councils, which is the second point, is in progress.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand what variation means. It's me being thick, I think, probably. In other words, have we changed? Councillor Olive, let's see, have a go.
It's in the covering report, Chair. It's where the timeline or the implementation plan has changed.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think.
And now I found it, I can concur with that.
Thank you very much. And now these two
Didn't
young
direct me
now
to
these two young members
particularly
have come to-
helpfully.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Councillor Goodman, back to you, please.
No, thank you. You know, when you listen to what John said, you think, gosh, there's a lot to do. We've got to remember this is a 4-year plan. Yeah. This is not to be delivered in 1 year. This is over the 4 years to 2028. Sometimes I think council don't quite understand that, but it is a long-term plan. It's not a short-term fix. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Goodman. That's very, very good of you. Councillor Faithful, please.
Thank you, Chair. I remember when the council plan was something that was delivered about 6 months after the election. When is this one due to be presented, finished?
Do you mean the timescale of this piece of work? Yeah,
the delivered plan is presented and approved by the council, and it was normally 6 months, approximately 6 months after election. And now the last one, I don't know how long that one took, and how long is this one going to take? Because you're almost at the end, you could end up, if you're not careful, getting close to the end of the 4 years before you've got your council plan in place.
Okay, Councillor Loudon, just to help us with that, thank you.
Just to remind colleagues that this council plan was something that we went through consultation with members and external bodies at about this time last year, if I remember. And we then created a draft council plan, which then came through Cabinet and then to council around about February, I think, of this year. And at that point, we created, and I'll show you the front there, Councillor, our council plan for 24 to 28. And what this report does is give you an update on all of the 100+ actions within there, where we've got to at the end of the second quarter, so 6 months in. to our 4-year period. And just picking up the point that Councillor Goodman made, and this is not about many things we say, we want to quickly get this delivered, we need to get on with this. Well, within the council plan, there are some things that we want delivered quickly, and some things we recognise will take a lot longer. So some bits are a sprint, other bits are a marathon. It's a bit of a mix and match. So this is your first update, and that's attached in the appendix, and it is nicely colour-coded, hopefully to try and make sure that people can understand the difference between variation, in progress, completed, etc.
So I was really going to say something nice about John. It was just about, but just to support him, one of his favourite expressions, I think, is it's a living document, isn't it? It's a live document.
It's as live as you'll get from me, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay. Right. Thank you. Anybody else wish to contribute on that? No. So Councillor Loudon moved. Anybody like to second? Councillor Ledger. In which case, let's go to the vote, please, committee. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you to Joe and to John and all officers and members involved in the production of that piece of work. Thank you. I now hand over to the Vice Chair for agenda item 22.
I move that under Section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public, including the press, be excluded from the meeting as exempt information of the description set out on the agenda is likely to be disclosed, and on balance the public interest is in discussing this item in private session, otherwise known as Part B, Chair. So moved. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Jackson. May I ask for a vote, please, on that motion? I believe that's unanimous. Thank you.